Most recently, I have played the role of Ida in New River Stage's production of Honk. It's a musical, it's a theater for young audiences show, so it's quite a bit different than Much Ado About Nothing. I would say that performing in a musical versus performing in Shakespeare really isn't all that different. You're playing a character. You are listening and interacting with other people on stage, and I think there's a really strong parallel between the world of musical theater and the writing of Shakespeare. They both use heightened language, they both use the development of a character, listening and communicating with their fellow actors to tell a story. Beatrice is a highborn lady who has an enormous opinion of herself in certain ways, but who also is, like all people who come off as being very self-assured, vulnerable in her own way. And I think that she's a really unique character, both in that Shakespearean literature when it was written, and also for the period that we are playing the show in, the 1920s, in that she is a woman who has no regard whatsoever for the typical conventions of women do this and men do that, and I think that she is a real heroine for women even today. I think that she really embodies a sense of independence and fun, and she's a woman who is smart and is not afraid of telling everybody that she's smart. And like everybody who thinks pretty highly of themselves, she has a few weaknesses that others can prey on.
Okay, so let's talk about the relationship between her and Benedict.
Sure. I think anyone who's ever gone to middle school will recognize the relationship between Beatrice and Benedict quite well. They are the epitome of the I'm going to be mean to you because I really like you couple. And they spend most of the show really getting under each other's skin. And it's so much fun to sort of watch them fight not only with each other but with themselves.
Do you believe that maybe they had some kind of relationship in the past and then maybe one of them ruined it?
Oh, I think so, absolutely. There's a few lines in the show that actually relate specifically to that, but then there's also so much more richness in their story that can come out if you see them as people who loved each other and then had a breakup and have now found their way back into this uncomfortable situation that they're in the show.
Okay, without giving too much away, how does their relationship kind of turn around?
Their relationship really evolves sort of by the trickery of others. I think they are so entrenched in their own ideals and in their own hoopla that they don't really have the ability to discover the truth for themselves until other people show it to them. So one of the best and most fun and recognizable...
So the most fun and recognizable?
One of the most fun and recognizable... One of the most fun and recognizable parts of the show is when the friends of Beatrice and Benedict proceed to trick them into understanding that the other is madly in love with them. And then of course they go through the middle school-esque, oh, she likes me, oh, he likes me, well then I must like him. So they have a lot of fun with that.
Okay. Any particular favorite lines or speeches?
Beatrice has some of the best lines of all Shakespearean women of all time. She has these great lines of independence and of, you know, she says, would it not grieve a woman to be overmastered by a piece of valiant dust? You know, she just has a wonderful way of flouting convention and telling everybody that she does not intend to be ruled by anyone.
Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about your own experience as an actor. I mean, first of all, have you had any Shakespeare experience before this, and were there any challenges in this production?
Yes, I have had Shakespeare production experience. I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Wisconsin in theater and drama. I haven't done a full-length Shakespeare show for quite a while. I have primarily been focused on musical theater. That's what I tend to end up getting the majority of my roles in. So it's been really fun for me to not only do a straight play for a change, but to do a Shakespeare. And on top of that, to play a role that, I mean, I think every actress at some point in her career would love a crack at this part, because it's just so fun and there's so much richness in the role.
Let's talk about the film. Did you find any inspiration or any criticism of Emma Thompson's performance, or any other productions that
Sure. Really the only movie I've seen of this is the Emma Thompson, Kenneth Branagh, sort of the definitive version. And I think that there's a lot of wonderful things that they brought out in that film version. I think that it's always different, it's always unique. You have to bring what's inside you to the role of Beatrice, not what's inside Emma Thompson. So I really have tried to not watch the film and not emulate the film too much. I mean, I think that I would be enormously over-complimenting myself to think that I would have the same mannerisms and the same way of approaching the role as Emma Thompson. But I do think that there are some through lines to Beatrice that I wouldn't be wholly unrecognizable if people had seen the movie. I mean, she is who she is, and every actress has to sort of take what they find in the script and marry that with what they bring to the role themselves.
What does being in the 20s do for your Beatrice?
I think the 20s are a really interesting time for women, and I think it's a really interesting time to play Beatrice. It almost has a little more resonance. I think in the period that the play was written, in Elizabethan times, she would have been seen as something of a radical, and perhaps in the 1920s she's more of a suffragette, she's more of a progressive, she might be part of the progressive movement. And so it's an interesting era of, you know, enormous amount of women's liberation, more freedom in terms of partners and in terms of lifestyle choices and in terms of, you know, do you want a career outside of the home? There's all these avenues that World War I sort of opened up for women. And there's a lot of conflict as well, but I think that it's a really interesting time to play Beatrice because she fits pretty easily into that time frame.
Okay. Anything that you would like to say to the audience members that are coming to this show?
Sure. I think that the audience is going to be astounded at the level of talent and skill that the New River Valley has. I was astonished at the read-through.